Hi, Growth Mindset Gang. I am so excited because we have another wonderful guest with us today on the podcast, Miss Kathleen Coleman, and we're going to be talking about all things of creating a transformative mindset and really being able to realize that we can reclaim our power and we can be in our basically in our zone of genius when creating the life that we wanted. And it always comes back to our mindset. That's been like a core quality for our podcast. So, Kathleen, I'm so excited for you to be on the podcast with us today. Do you want to introduce yourself to the Growth Mindset Gang?
Absolutely. Thank you, Allie. So glad to be here. Hey, Growth Mindset Game. I am Kathleen Coleman. I am a national conference speaker, mindset coach, and an author. I'm based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm just really grateful and appreciative to be here with you today.
Yeah, we're so excited because we this has been a conversation a long time coming. So I'm so excited to
Yeah.
have you on. And one of the first, topics I kind of want to dive into because I'm always very interested in people's journeys and their stories of how they got to where they are. You said that you were a mindset coach. And so what was kind of your process of getting to the place where like, I need to improve my mindset if I want to have a successful life?
Well, I come from a spiritual Christian background,
Hmm.
and so I realized that the life that I was living did not line up with what I was being taught from a biblical perspective.
Right.
And after trying so very hard to be that person, to be
Hmm.
the good person, the right person, to make all the right choices, it really became perfectly aware to me that I could not do it on my own, that something was missing.
Hmm.
And I was really blessed to run across a mentor that really ministered to me from Romans 12 into about the mindset and how being transformed. And I realized that in order for change to take place in my life, in order for me to be that person that wanted to be happy, right? I
Hmm.
wanted peace. I wanted
Hmm.
joy. I just wanted to be what I considered a good person. And so when I really began to study mindset and transformation based on those scriptures, I realized that it was an inside job. And I was
Hmm.
trying very hard myself to do things that could not be done until my mind was changed. And that was really a great revelation for me. And it has just been a marvelous journey
Hmm.
ever since. I'm enjoying every step of the way.
I love it. And what's great that, even seeing just talking to you and like we're meeting for the first time, and I could tell just by the way that you're sharing your story, like the power and the strength and the fun, the joy, the peace that you wanted is really coming from within. You're really beaming, which is so exciting to feel as the energy as I'm talking to you because
Mhm.
that's the beauty of it. And that's why, people like you and I, we talk about these things with mindset and we're in the coaching sphere because we understand, going from, point A of being like, what on earth am I doing with my life? And we were known and we were called to say, there's more to this
Yeah,
life, and that
yeah.
I'm made for more. And we're kind of, I don't want to say wasting our time not realizing it, but kind of the misuse of our potential when we're not understanding, the transformative piece of having a very strong, having a growth mindset. And, a lot of us, it's not our fault. We're kind of like taught that way through society of having kind of like that fixed mindset where it's like you come into this world with a certain amount of skills, you can't improve in anything if you're not good at it right away, just quit. And it's all about kind of the outcomes of life rather than the process of life. But I feel like
Yes,
the process of life, like that's where like the fun is, right,
yes,
Kathleen? So,
yes, yes.
I speak to so many people and in the mindset space, and we often sometimes become like our own limit because we block ourselves off from our true potential. Have you seen any misconceptions in that way when people kind of sometimes we become our own limit in the mindset space?
Well, yeah, absolutely. For me personally, and as well for others. We get in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
The mindset, it is so instilled in us because it's part of our upbringing, it's our culture, it is part of our subconscious, and we're not aware of it. So we don't know that we are really the only thing standing in the way. It's not the people in our lives or the people that are not in our lives, right? We feel like we need more or something's missing, or we've got to acquire certain things in order to be this happy, joyous, fulfilled person. And
Mm-hmm.
really, the only thing that's really in the way is our own belief system, our own understanding. And
Mm-hmm.
again, as you said, Al, it's not our fault. It's the way we were programmed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's intentional that we were programmed in a way because I do believe that all things work together for our good. So we were programmed in a way to kind of hide and cover up our potential so we could have this desire and this yearning to really
Mhm.
dig deep and find and discover it. That makes it more valuable. You know, if we were born exposed to all this potential and just jumped in and were going
Mhm.
for it, but the fact that we had to begin to understand it and dig into it and find it and really find who we are, that's what makes it so exciting because you realize there's so much more to you than what you thought. I mean, so much more.
Oh my God. I don't think our brains can even fathom like our truest potential. And I have to like remind myself every day because, sometimes we get in a rut. We have our ups and downs. Like, even when we figure it out, like, oh, in order to, reach my highest potential, it is my mindset. And I think sometimes people go, okay, I become very aware of that, but they don't realize that it's a process. There's going to be ebbs and flows. I mean, there are some days where I'm like, I mean, my podcast is really called like the growth mindset gal. And there's some days I don't, Kathleen, I don't have a growth mindset. And I have to be like, hey, hey, it's that subconscious and unconscious rewiring we have to always continue to discern and be aware of because I mean we develop these patterns and these narratives from like since we were 7, like that's when they truly like ingrained in us.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we're in 20s, 30s, and 40s, and we think, okay, if I just become aware of my mindset, everything is now fixed. But it takes so much time to rewire all of those patterns because our brain loves those patterns. It
Yeah.
thrives on those
Yeah.
patterns, even if it's not serving us, because our brain doesn't care if we're happy, it just cares if we're alive. And so if we're alive, I mean, brain's like, all right, check, 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 we're good to go.
Yeah.
But it's actually our conscience. And I feel like too, our soul is the one that's like, hey, hey, yeah, you're alive. That's great. But think of what you can accomplish with everything, with your being alive, with this life experience. And so people are like, hey, I'm becoming super aware that like I need to work on my mindset. I am definitely being my own limit. What
Mhm.
are some really easy, small adaptive steps that people can start doing, on a daily basis to help with that?
I believe that forgiving ourselves,
Hmm.
um, you know, throughout the day, because we fall short so many times throughout the day.
Yeah.
And it seems the moment we fall short, we go on this downward spiral. It's like an all or nothing type mindset. And
Yep.
so I really believe that we really want to be conscious to just remember to forgive ourselves, that it's okay that I woke up not feeling my best today.
Yeah.
It's okay that I didn't check everything on the list today.
Hmm.
So to forgive ourselves, to be gracious with ourselves, and then I think to celebrate even the one thing that we do on the list. Always celebrate the good. Always celebrate the good. I think those are a couple of things that can really just help us to, even though we know what to do, but we don't always do it, or we know what we shouldn't do, but those are the things that we do. And so we're going to fall in that at any given time, but it's not permanent. It's just temporary. It's just
Yeah.
a moment. So if we can remember to forgive ourselves and to celebrate every win, I think that would really just kind of help us. And again, it's a process. So
Mm-hmm.
be kind to yourself
Yeah.
always.
Always. And I have so many conversations with people that they're like, yes, that sounds great, but a lot of people pleasing and perfectionism
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
gets in our way too. And it's
yeah,
like I always tell people I'm the same way with you. It's like, no, but like, you know what? Yeah, you're gonna mess up. And I know that's as a perfectionist, you're like, no, but I can't, but you're going to. And I love that you said like giving yourself grace, giving forgiveness, accepting that you're gonna have really great days and accepting that you're gonna have, yeah, not so great days, but you're trying, you're doing. And I love that you said like notice the good in the everyday. I think because we do have kind of more of a negative bias, just as a survival instinct, that we
yeah,
do pay more attention, right, to the negative things in our life.
we
And
do.
there could be 3 great things that happen to us in a day and one negative thing that happens to us. What does our brain remember? The one negative that happens. And so, one of the things that helped me too is another G, which was gratitude, where I was like, you know what, in the good of every day, right? You sit, you pause, you look around and have gratitude for the space that you are in. And there's nothing wrong. You could do both at the same time, where it's like you can be grateful for where you are, but be excited for like where you're going and always wanting to, do more and improve. Like both can coexist because you're building the life that you want. And a way of building is to have, right, that gratitude and look around of your day and find the good, not only in like the environment, but also the good in other people. I think we don't realize that, yes, our environment has a lot to do with our mindset, but people have a
Oh
lot
yeah.
to do, oh yeah, with our mindset too. And, in my own journey and, clients and, friends that I speak to, we start going on this journey of mindset transformation. The locks are unclicking and we're like, oh, that makes sense. We're making all these connections. But then like the people around us aren't on the same, wavelength anymore, and they don't understand what we're doing, or they just don't get it. And you kind of see the fading away, or they say that what you're doing is like silly or whatever they're saying to it. How can someone like kind of get better at paying no mind when like you're doing the work on yourself and your mindset? If people have more negative opinions on that, how do we pay no mind to that?
Wow, yeah. Because family, our friends,
Hmm.
they're important to us. And that is a bit of a challenge,
Yeah.
but we want to remember that everyone is at a different level of awareness.
Yep.
So we want to be kind and gentle toward them, but also we want to maybe search for different relationships, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just a matter of stepping out. I think for me personally, as an introvert, that's a big challenge.
Yeah.
Just stepping out and connecting with different people that have similar mindsets or are going in the same direction that I'm going in or that you may be going in. So I think it's good to just find, your make new relationships, build new relationships, maybe networking,
Hmm.
maybe going to different types of outings, and just being willing to open ourselves up and to listen to other people's perspectives and their way of doing things, but
Yeah.
they still have the same mindset. But yeah, a lot of times we do have family members and friends who are well intended. And I think it's
Yeah.
important that we remember that they are well intended.
Hmm.
They're
Hmm.
just not at the same level of awareness. And then we can figure out some kind of way to use that.
Hmm.
To use those people that are kind of rubbing against us unknowingly for our growth.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an opportunity for us to develop patience or to develop,
Hmm.
just a deeper awareness of ourselves. Because on every side of a coin is a flip coin. So a person in our lives who is not as supportive as we would like them to be,
Hmm.
sometimes that's an opportunity for growth for us, but with wisdom and also not allowing people to pull us back or to pull us down at the same time.
Yeah, and I love that you said that it always does, most of the time, especially if it's friends and family, it does come from just concern and
Yeah.
caring and well intent. And I think that sometimes gets lost in the self-development sphere where it's like you shouldn't care what anyone thinks. And it's like you can care, but you learn to discern the information of like, is this
Yeah.
a maybe this is a blind spot. Maybe I'm not realizing that, I missed something on the path or what have you. Or you get they don't get it, but I get it, and that's okay. And you could still have a great relationship with someone
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
they don't understand you 100% of the time. Because one of the most graceful things that came into my own mindset practice was realizing that everyone's kind of in their own like little mini reality bubble, that we all have our own perspectives on the world, and also we have our own perspectives on how people are living their lives, how we're living our lives. And sometimes those reality bubbles, they don't commingle inside, and that's where that conflict sometimes happens. But as long as you say, you understand where they're coming from and they understand where you're coming from, you don't necessarily have to agree 100% of the time. And that's totally fine if that's your life path. And I love that you said that like maybe it's a space for you to learn to grow, and especially if you're learning patience. I know everyone wants to learn patience. It's like the number one thing you want to learn. And one of the coolest things I saw, I forget where I saw it though, but it was like, you're asking God for patience, right? You're not just going to become patient. He's going to give you something to help practice to learn
Yes,
how to
yes.
be patient. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Or you're learning to accept things better, or you're learning to give yourself more grace or forgive yourself. There's going to be times and instances in your life that those kind of tasks are going to come up and see, like, this is how you build the skill, though. You don't just like
Yeah.
all of a sudden wake up one day and like, I'm patient, I'm great. It's through to your life because like that's what sometimes we think, right? But it's
Yeah.
actually through, and you know, through life experiences and
Yeah.
relationships and challenges and the ebbs and flows, that's what develops our mindset. I think the greatest teacher is always just the world. It's just life is always the greatest teacher. And,
Yeah.
people we listen to, like podcasts like this, which is super helpful, and reading the books and all the things, which is all well and good. But then there's that extra step application of the knowledge, right? You can
Yeah.
learn, but
Yeah.
then it's the application in real life. How are you going to take the information of developing a great mindset into the world? And it's funny because, people they have a sense of humor and they go, okay, you want to practice having a great mindset? All right, well, here's going to be some life experiences, and we're going to see if you're going to, put the pedal to the metal and actually apply what you've learned about having, a transformative mindset. And in your own story, you said that it comes from a lot of biblical reference and theories that actually went into, right, you developing your mindset and even your life. And I know you touched on it a little bit, but do you want to share a little bit more of how that was infused in your mindset journey?
Well, yeah, I can say this, so many things I can say actually, but one thing that I thought about on my mindset journey when it comes to purpose,
Mm,
really not knowing why I was here, what I'm supposed to be doing. I know
mm,
my overall purpose, but how to administer that purpose and in what order. So I came from a very rural background.
mhm,
Um, I'm I was raised in the South, in the rural South, in the 60s, right?
mhm,
And we were in extreme poverty. I mean, just straight poverty.
mhm.
Didn't know it at the time because I didn't have anything to compare it to.
Right.
But I knew that, we didn't have a lot. And but I've always had this really insatiable desire for the absolute best of everything. Even as a
Mhm,
teenager, when I did leave the South, and I, through a chain of events, ended up in the North, in Illinois and Indiana, and I was in high school. I was probably only kid in high school that wore suits.
Dress
I
for the
did not.
life that you want. Dress for the life that you want.
I did not wear jeans or gym shoes. I didn't like them. Of course, I was in home make, so I had to make most of these suits. And
Mhm,
because I'm still kind of in poverty,
mhm,
but I was dressy all the time.
mhm,
And I just always had this desire for the absolute best as a young adult. As I became a believer, joined the church and became more spiritual, I just wanted more. But you know
mhm,
what, Allie? It really, really bothered me.
mhm,
It literally tormented me. And I'm not exaggerating. I was tormented by this desire for more
mhm,
because it absolutely made no sense to me. And I
mhm,
felt like it wasn't for me. I didn't know where this desire came from.
mhm,
I didn't know what to do with it. And it was literally torment. I cannot express how tormenting it was for me.
mhm,
And I would even reason with myself, well, what do you think how do you think you can have any of these nice cars, nice homes, nice everything nice? I just wanted it. And again, tormented. I think I was maybe around the age, maybe in my late mid 40s,
mhm,
right? Now I had been in church, I've been a believer, I've been reading the Bible and all the promises and everything that I'm hearing
mhm,
people preach, but I'm still really not seeing it too much either in other people's lives.
mhm,
And so I was invited to go to this service. And
mhm,
again, I'm in my mid 40s. And I sit there and I listen to this man of God, and he preached and he talked about abundance, right?
mhm,
He talked about an abundant life, and he talked about just all the riches and all the wonderful
mhm,
things that is intended for us as
mhm,
believers. I really believe it's as creations of God, whatever our faith is, I do believe that God created us all for this purpose to live this
Hmm.
abundant life. I
Hmm.
just happen to be of the Christian perspective, but I believe it's for all God's people because He created us in His image, in His likeness to glorify Him and to live this abundant life.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting in church and I'm hearing this man preach this and I'm listening and it's
Hmm.
making sense.
It's
And
clicking.
I'm and this burden is lifted off my shoulder and I'm crying and I'm weeping because honestly, up until that moment, my life did not make sense to me. And I don't know if anyone knows what it feels like for your life not to make sense. That's a terrible place to be. That
Hmm.
is a really dark place. For me, it was a dark place. I didn't know what my life was supposed to be, why I was here, and why I was having all of these desires for all of these nice things.
Hmm.
But the greater part of that story is that when I realized that all of these things that I would design were okay, that I was not crazy,
Hmm.
I realized that it really wasn't so much me wanting these things,
Hmm.
but the God that created me wanted me to have these things. This was
Hmm.
his desire being
Hmm.
lived through, or wanting to live through me. You know,
Hmm.
he wanted to express his grandeur, right?
Hmm.
And his abundance. He wanted to express this through me. And I'm here rebuking it, saying, no, this is the
Hmm.
devil. I'm not supposed to have this. I don't
Right.
deserve this. And when I came to that understanding, I'm like, oh my God, I am so embarrassed.
Mhm. We missed the plot.
It was between me and, between me and God. I felt
Mhm.
like all the time it was you. And I thought it was me, and I thought it was about me. And it really
Mhm.
wasn't about me. It was about being the absolute best that He is in me so that others can see that and experience that and want that, and we can all have that. So that's kind of how my mindset, the transformation experience kind of came came into existence.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing the story. I like forgot that I was on a podcast. I was just like listening. I was like, this is awesome. Like I was like right there with you because it's so true that it's so great once you get that realization that like we're all here to serve a purpose and live a wonderful life. And a lot of the times, yes, I always think we come here with a service and like we come in with skills and we can help, the collective in general, right? The people, humankind, but also the purpose of life too is the life experiences and realizing our truest potential and getting to our highest self and creating the life that we want. And I'm also too a firm believer of like kind of you're like a co-conspirator where there's like divine timing but there's free will and there's kind of a mix
Yeah,
in
yeah.
between. It's like the whole point of life is like making one decision and then one decision and then one decision, but making those decisions in alignment, right, with our awareness on what I want my life to look like. And I think a lot of people sometimes get confused or overwhelmed because they don't have that clarity. Like you just said, you got so much clarity from that moment, right? And a lot of people are walking around in autopilot, just doing X, Y, and Z because that's what we were told to do or that was the
Yeah.
right thing to do, and kind of doing it mindlessly or purpose like less, if you will, and just going through autopilot. And I think though people are getting more aware in their mindset, also within their spirituality, and realizing that like we have so much power to not only heal ourselves with mindset transformation, but also like heal within communities. I think a
Yeah.
lot of us feel lost because we don't have a community, whatever that means for anyone. And realizing, I think, and you said this before, is like creating a community and being a part of a community that is in alignment with where you're supposed to go in this life, right? Is the
Right.
most like soul hugging thing I think you could ever do. Like, it too, like deep inside, because your soul's like, the people are like me. I understand. We're all on the same, pathway here. And it's one of the greatest moments, I think. And that's what makes the mindset transformation so exciting. It's because you kind of get a glimpse of like what's ahead. You can never really know because like that's just the whole fun of it. But I think in that moment you kind of got that little glimpse of like if I do the things, if I understand that abundance is waiting for me, then that's going to be one of the greatest things ever. I think a lot of us live in a lot of scarcity and have like a scarcity mindset and very limiting mindset.
Yeah.
And so we block ourselves off from those messages or those signs or whatever someone wants to call it. And that's why we live so much in autopilot. And so if people are kind of becoming more aware of it and they're realizing, oh, I'm definitely being my own limit. I know that I'm made for more, but I'm super afraid of the failure. Like, what if I do the X, Y, and Z, if I step out of the comfort zone and I'm trying to realize my highest potential, but it's ugly and there's
Yeah.
failure and there's judgment.
Yeah.
And then that makes people crawl back into the comfort zone. What encouragement do you have for people?
Well, I think fear is very common. It's just part of the
Yeah.
human experience.
Yep.
But I think we give fear probably a personality that it doesn't really have. I
Hmm.
see fear is simply afraid itself. Okay. That's how I see
Hmm.
fear.
Hmm.
And I believe that rather, when we feel afraid, we acknowledge it, but we can take that fear and we can embrace the fear because I think I can say this, but I don't know what it would take for it to become a part of us personally. But fear or failure in the
Hmm.
case is really just a prerequisite to success. Whatever
Hmm.
it is that you cannot succeed until you fail. It's just part of the deal. There's no
Hmm.
right or failure is a part of life.
Yep. And we like to skip that step, but we love to skip steps as
But,
humans.
it's such a wonderful part of life because if we
Yeah.
look at failure more as opportunity, right? If
Hmm.
you invest in something and it doesn't go quite like you expect, and you feel like, well, maybe I lost my investment, right?
Hmm.
But it wasn't a loss because it was an investment, and there's always a return on your investment. Always. If
Hmm.
you sow a seed, you're going to always get a harvest. Now, the harvest may not look like what you want it to look like, and it may not arrive in the time that you think it should arrive. So, should you move forward and you make some type of investment of time and resources in something, and it doesn't come back the way you expect it to come back, but you can know that it is coming back. And when it comes back, in most cases, it's going to come back in a form that you didn't expect, and it's going to be greater than what you expected.
Hmm.
Because based on faith, right?
Hmm.
Whatever you expect, God will do exceedingly abundantly more than you
Oh, yeah.
expect, right? He's going to do
Hmm.
more than you expect. So you were expecting to make an investment, let's just say of maybe $25, and you were expecting maybe 1,000 back. You didn't get it. You lost your $25, and it's been a few weeks, a few months. But some kind of way you're going to get more than that 1,000 back that you were expecting. But you have to keep expecting that return exceeding abundantly more than you expected. I
Hmm.
think that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Never give up on your investment, even when it looks like a failure,
Hmm.
because everyone who has invested, when we think about celebrities, when we think about Oprah Winfrey, remember she was
Hmm.
told that she wasn't
Yeah.
on television. Now she
Hmm.
owns her own network. I
Hmm.
believe I was told that the gentleman that started Starbucks, his
Hmm.
loan offer was rejected over 400 times, right? They said that the world did not want his type of coffee.
Hmm.
And when we think about Walt Disney, right, he was rejected because he didn't, from a newspaper, um,
Hmm.
as a writer, because he was told that he did not have enough imagination. And I'm just
Imagine.
tickled by that.
Yeah.
So these are
Like,
all people that made investments. They were rejected and looked like they lost, but boy, did they come out as winners, right? So you
mhm.
are a winner, even if it looks like that investment is not going the way. You hang in there and you're going to get double fold, probably, much more than you ever imagined you could get from that investment.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I love that you said that. Like, it's like finding the opportunity in everything, even in failure. There's always an opportunity in everything that we do. And I know it's so much easier said than done, but it's like when you're kind of going through a tough time or a tough season, it's like, yes, acknowledge and be like, well, this does stink. This is awful. And kind of, validate it, move through whatever emotions that come up. And then once you kind of go through it, you get to be like, okay, but like, what am I going to learn from this? What lessons, skills, tools, what am I going to gain from this moment? Because, and I hear this all the time, but I always resonate with it. It's like life doesn't happen to you, it's happening for you at all times. And you just have to be aware and kind of seeing and being aligned with like your divine life path and noticing that, like, oh, and like everything's in hindsight. And we always say that, right? But
Yeah.
when you look back at certain things, you go, oh, that's why that happened. That's why that person or that relationship that like didn't work out. Oh, that's why, my dream school, what I thought was my dream school rejected me because I was able to go to another college that set me on a career path. Or if a job rejects you, I always say
Right.
rejection is a redirection. That's what I always tell myself when rejection, I'm like, rejection is always a redirection or it's a protection. Because again, like you keep saying, which I love, is like we can't even fathom like the amount of abundance and love and joy and peace that we can, create in this life and have that divine timing and create the life that we want because we're so much in like that mundane and the autopilot and the limiting beliefs that we create kind of our own prism in a mindset where
Yeah.
we completely create this life that's just like non-fulfilling and so many people are so burnt out and they said they did all the right things and now they're in their late 20s 30s even their 40s being like, well, why do I feel so burnt out, why do I feel so unfulfilled, is because you were living a life that was not aligned with, right, your divine truth, right? And that comes with having a transformative mindset and not limiting yourself. And one of the other things that I also wanted to bring up was your brave thinking approach, which I think is so fun because being brave is really scary. So like and then brave thinking, it's like, what do you mean brave thinking? And I
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most courageous things we could do is think bravely. So can you kind of go into more details about that?
Yeah, well, so yeah, I am a certified coach with the Brave Thinking Institute. That's
Yeah.
Mary Morrissey's baby.
Mhm.
And she really coined brave thinking based on Thoreau, because he had did a writing, and in the writing he talked about common hour thinking. And
Mhm.
common hour thinking is just what it is. It's what most folks call common sense, being
Yeah.
practical, being reasonable,
Mhm.
being logical. And so he kind of coined the common hour thinking, and it's really based on situations and circumstances, right? We
Mhm.
we solve problems or we make decisions based on the current status quo, what
Mhm.
it looks like, what we think we can do. But with brave thinking, it's totally different. We
Mhm.
make decisions based on the possibilities, right? It's not
Mhm.
condition based thinking. It's
Mhm.
brave thinking. It's what I call now faith thinking, right?
Mhm.
It's that substance, it's that faith is the substance that we hold on to. And so the brave thinking method is really just, as Mary always says, we're not trying to get to our dream. We're not trying to get to the vision. In brave thinking, you're already there, right? Brave thinking, you're already there and you're coming from it, right? We're not looking at, well, how can I get there? We're not looking at, well, how can I make this happen?
Mhm.
Or why is this happening? We're looking at what, right? We're
Mhm.
looking at what the possibilities are. And
Mhm.
another really great, and I think the primary thing about brave thinking is something that we don't do. And I can share a story, a personal story
I
along
love a
this
story.
line
Tell us.
that with brave thinking, it's really thinking about what it is that you would really, really love. As you
Mhm.
mentioned, people, we get stuck, we get burned out
Mhm.
because we're doing something that someone else told us that we were good at, our
Mhm.
parents, our teachers. And so we get burned out because it's not really what we would really love to be doing.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
brave thinking is really being brave enough, because
Mhm.
it's been my experience that it takes brave thinking to even think about what you would love. And
Yeah.
so when we think about what we love, there's something about love. And when you're thinking about what you would love, it really just shifts your whole perspective, right? It takes
Mhm.
your mind to a different place because now you're focused on this thing that you absolutely love. In my
Mhm.
case, I loved abundance, right?
Mhm. Me
But
too.
I
Mhm.
refused to think about it when I was younger. I
Mhm.
wasn't brave enough to think about it. I
Mhm.
rejected it. I denied it. I was like, no, that's not for me. So, brave thinking is really making a decision that you're going to really focus on what you love, even if it's painful, even if it doesn't make any sense. And I give a
Mhm.
quick story.
Yes.
Um, I was folding laundry
Mhm.
this happened a couple of years ago. So I'm sitting in my bed and I'm folding laundry,
Uh-huh.
and in that moment, my mind is quiet and still because I'm just folding laundry, nothing's going on. And while I'm sitting there, I caught myself dreaming about something. Just a thought came to my mind, and it was a nice thought, and it felt really good.
Mhm.
And I became aware that as soon as I began to think along this line, I stopped. Right, I stopped, and so I'm still folding clothes, and I hear this
Mhm.
voice, right? Because I hear God says, "Why did you stop?" So now I'm really I'm really
Mhm.
doing like,
Right.
okay, because my experience is when God asks you a question, it's not that He wants you to answer,
Mhm.
but He wants to give you the answer. He wants to reveal the answer to you, right? So
Mhm.
I'm sitting there thinking, well, why did I stop?
Mhm.
And after a while, it came out. I stopped because it hurt.
Mhm.
And those were the words that came out my mouth. That was my answer. And as I said that, I kind of wept because it hurt for me to think about something that I really did not believe was possible based on my current situation, circumstances,
Right.
and conditions. And so, but
Mhm.
I wasn't aware that this was going on. And I realized in that moment, all of this time, I have been stopping when the part of me, my soul, my spirit wanted to dream, all these years I had been cutting it off and stopping it. And
Mhm.
in that moment, by the grace of God, it came to my awareness that I was doing this. And so that's why I say brave thinking, it really requires us to um, really be willing to think, even if it seems impossible. Because as soon as a thought or an idea comes to us, if it seems impossible, it seems like, no, I can't do that. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the support. We dismiss it.
Oh yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's common our thinking because it's
Mhm.
based on the conditions and the circumstances. It's not based on the possibilities
Mhm.
of all the wondrous things that could really happen. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's kind of the difference between the brave thinking and common hour thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that because that's so crucial that like it's sometimes it's just our human nature is to kind of block when we have a dream come in and then I think, all the time I always think of it's like our soul and our ego, a constant battle all the time being like the dream comes up and that's your soul being like, yeah, you get that little whisper and you're like, that could be a great idea. But then the ego comes up and it's like, nope, we don't have enough money. Nope, we don't have enough support. Nope, that can never happen to someone like you, right? Those limiting narrating beliefs come in and it's because it's such a big change and like our unconscious and our brain and our ego they don't like the change it likes the
Yeah.
patterns where our soul is like the expansive. You know how
Yeah.
people say like, oh, why me? It's the soul is like, but why not me? Why not? Why
Yeah.
not? Let's figure it out. And we create such an unresourceful state in our unconscious where it's like when we have a challenge or a dream that seems out of reach, we go, whoop, close. And like you said, we leave it, we get rid of it. That's not realistic, right? And then we
Yeah.
throw it away. Where it's like, but you can transform that mindset thinking into being like, no, you're resourceful. I mean, we're in 2025. We're surrounded by resources. And yeah, maybe you won't be able to get to that dream tomorrow, but the beauty of it is if we change our thinking into more solution based, right? Our mindset is more solution based. You could be like, well, what's the first step? What can I do right now to make that dream a reality? Like, why not me? Like, one of the things that comes to mind is like when I started the podcast, I mean, 4 years ago at this point, I was like, well, who's going to listen to me? But why not me? But I kept getting that urge, like, no, but I want to do it because I listen to podcasts and I was like, I want to share, and I want to have wonderful conversations with guests like yourself. And then I was like, you know what? Why not me? And what did I do? Google right away. Okay, how do I broadcast, podcast? What mic should I use? I literally, I went to Amazon, got a mic, and then you just start going. And it's that kind of fun of like doing it messy or like starting it messy because you have like the end vision in mind
Yeah.
of that abundance or the goal, the dream that you want. And if we just, instead of being like, oh, no, that's not a reality or that would never happen, instead of being like, well, why not me? Why can't I do that? And I think that's what really connected me to your brave thinking story because that's one of the best ways to build the best life for you and living in the most alignment with your mindset is being like, I can like once you realize that like you sometimes are your worst enemy and you could be your biggest limit, like once
Yeah.
you become very aware of it, like you're unstoppable, like unstoppable. And I think you mentioned that
Yes.
before. You literally become just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I might, get hit roadblocks and I might have ebbs and flows in the process of the dream, but like that's life. And it's like you're always gonna figure it out. And us as humans, we're very resilient. And so like that's like the point. It's like
Absolutely.
you go
Yeah.
through the challenges, and that's kind of like you said before, that's where we, learn our lessons, and that's one of the great life experiences. And so to end our wonderful conversation, because I mean, Kathleen and I, we could talk for hours. That's one of the fun
Yeah.
things of a podcast is having these wonderful conversations. We get lost in time. Is I know that you mentioned before too in the beginning that you're also an author. And so I kind of wanted you to share about the experience of why you created the book and what are some major takeaways people can.
Well, yeah, of course. So the book is Every Need Met. I have edition one and the second edition. The first edition is Every Need Met, Seven Steps to God's Supernatural Provision,
Mhm,
was published in 2017. And
mhm,
then I did Every Need Met, the Key to Answered Prayer, published in 2021, I believe. And so really it's back to abundance. It's back to the mindset.
mhm,
I do want to add that, when we focus on the dream instead of cutting it off, that
mhm.
is where we found the solution to the question,
Yeah.
can I? I just want to encourage it. Focus on the dream and the answer to whatever you think the problem is will come. But the
Mhm,
book is Every Need Met. And the purpose of the book is that we can live a life with every need met.
mhm,
I believe that. In fact, I believe because I believe in the abundance that already exists, may not be completed in my awareness as far as physically manifested, but I
mhm,
know that I live in a world of abundance and I know that everything that I need is already met. And I wrote the book because I wanted to encourage the reader, that we do not have to worry or stress about whatever we feel like that need is, because God has promised that He will meet the need, right? According to His divine will and purpose, according to His riches and glory. So a lot of times we look at our situations and we're not sure how we're going to meet the need, how we're going to make ends meet, whether it's a physical or financial, it could be in your relationships, right?
mhm,
It could be on your job, but whatever that need is, we live in a universe, right, where there's abundance of everything.
mhm,
And the point or the goal is for us to really just become aware that it is already there,
mhm,
that it already belongs to us. It is
mhm,
ours already. So
mhm,
we don't have to beg or plead for anything, right?
mhm,
We just know that it's there. It's for us because God created us, all
mhm,
of us in His image and after His likeness. We are, I believe, children of a most high God that's compassionate, that's loving, that's
mhm,
caring. And His desire is to provide for us. He created us to provide for us. And so
mhm,
He's not going to leave us in a situation where we're hungry or we're naked or
mhm,
we don't have support, we don't
mhm,
have social encouragement.
mhm,
Every need is truly already met. So I just wanted to, encourage people around the world to really just trust God. To meet their needs, that He is a loving, a caring, a compassionate God. He's not mad. He's not angry. He's not trying to get evil. He's not frustrated. He is a
mhm,
loving, merciful God, and He understands that we are imperfect human beings,
mhm,
but He know that that's a part of us that is just like Him, and
mhm,
that part of us that's just like Him is the part that He connects with, and
mhm,
through us He serves others.
mhm,
We are here to serve one another as He
mhm,
meets our needs. We have more than enough for everybody.
mhm.
um the book is about a little more than that, but I know we're short on time. So I just wanted to share Every Need Met, Seven Steps to God's Supernatural Provision.
Mhm.
If you wanted to know how to live a life with every need met, you definitely want to check out the book.
Yeah, and what an amazing note to end on, Kathleen. And let me tell you, I was like, based on what you said, I was like, I'm gonna grab that book, like yesteryear already. And it was just like so beautiful the way you described it. And it's such a beautiful purpose for you to write those books. And I think it's gonna serve so many people who will be reading it. And so, thank you so much again for coming on the podcast today. And where can the Growth Mindset Gang find you, follow you, get your book, all those wonderful things?
Absolutely. Well, the best place to find me is on my website. That's Kathleen with a K, Athleen hyphen Coleman, COLEMAN.com. And once you're on my website, all of my social media links are there.
Amazing. I'm going to be linking that in the show notes as well. And Kathleen, thank you again so much for coming on the podcast today.
It's my pleasure, Ellie. Thank you. God bless.